Okay, so in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do the name tags that you're doing for tech. There is already a previous tutorial online, but the previous tutorial used an older version of Affinity, so I'm just trying to update it to a newer version of Affinity. This should be for Affinity 3.0 or 3 onwards. You're in this starting screen, and now when it comes to making a file for Affinity that we can cut on the laser cutter, any of these will work because when we print them, it doesn't actually care about the size of the paper. It just tries to get the files that are on the paper. But for general good practice, I'm going to tell you what the maximum size of the laser cutter is, because you might be reading this tutorial in the future when you ask me when you're a year 9, 10 student. And you want to cut a larger project on the laser cutter, so I'll show you the maximum size of the laser cutter. The other thing is over here it says pages sizes in RGB, and there's paper sizes in CMYK. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Is those colors. These are the colors that you use for printing with like a photo printer, because it has those different colors of ink. While RGB is the colors used for computers. And our laser cutter needs it to be in RGB. So if you actually pick any of these, it'll be fine. But let's make a new one. We want to make this into a landscape orientation, and we want to make some custom sizes over here. We want to make our page width. The width of the laser cutter is 600 millimeters. And then press tab, and the height of the laser cutter is 450 millimeters. Then we have to go over here and make sure that RGB is selected. Don't know, it doesn't actually matter which version of RGB, just RGB 8 will be fine. And all these other options we don't need to worry about, but you can actually press save to my presets. So in the future, when you make the stuff for the box that we're doing, you might want to save it. So I can actually press save to my presets, and I can name this 600x450 laser RGB. So that one should pop up in your presets now, and so you can refer to this one in the future whenever you want to do something with the laser cutter, if you have a future project that you want to use. We'll double click that and then we'll load up. So when it comes to the laser cutter can accept only 3 colors, and I'm just going to draw those colors now. So the laser cutter can accept 3 different colors, and I'm just going to make it thicker so you can see it on my projector screen. So the laser cutter can accept 3 different colors, and depending on the color depends on the command you're going to send the laser cutter. The first one over here is if we can we want to make this over here, we want to make the outside RGB red, which is FF0000, or you can get this triangle to go over there, but FF0000, you can even type that, so FF and 4 zeros, and that is what we call RGB red, which means this is a pure red. There is no other colors in there. I think I can even change, I can even change it over here to a slider, and if you see here, it's pure red. Also over here, do you see how there's a circle, a hollow circle, and a full circle up here? We already remember from when we were doing our shapes, when the full circle is what's on the inside, and the whole and the one that's hollow, that is our stroke. We have to adjust the stroke. Yes.
Is it FF 4 zeros or F7?
FF and 4 zeros. And 4 zeros. If you're in this form over here, if you prefer to do it with the sliders, which we can press this arrow and we can change the option, I would suggest you either pick slider or wheel. I like wheel if you're doing general art stuff, because you pick the general color you want and then the shade. But when you're doing with the laser cutter, if you're doing a lot of things with the laser cutter, I would always prefer the slider, because then I can over here know that RGB red is 255 on the red. So see, we have the R over here, 255, and I press tab, we have 0 green, and tab, and we have 0 blue. So 25500. If you're looking at this in the wheel form, this is FF0000. This is called the hex code, which, remember when we're doing like our bitmaps and I said every single square of the bitmap has a color associated with it? If this were a bitmap, that would be the color that would be associated with that pixel. For the rest of the tutorial, I'll just keep it in slider form. So that's RGB red, and what RGB red does to our laser cutter is vector cutting is what you do with RGB red. And the other thing, it has a thickness of 0.001 points. Depending on the application you use, this can also sometimes be 0.001 millimeters. A point is not a millimeter. It's almost like inches and meters. They're different units. But if it's so small, most of the time it will work, or I will be able to fix it on my app. But this software, if you write in that number under the thickness, that will work. And this is vector cut. This is going to cut through the material. But look at what happens if I go over here and I have this length over here and I want to change this. I'm going to go to my stroke and see over here it's measured in points, 19.6 points. So I would point 0.001 and it's almost disappeared. The one thing is I don't want this. I want this to be transparent. I want that to be transparent. Okay. Over here, what's happened to my line? It's gone. Yes. So the line is gone. It is still there. As you see, I can hover over it, but it's not visible. That's a problem with Affinity Design. That's a problem with Affinity Design. It tries to be smart. It thinks if the line is too small, I'm not going to show it on your screen. But it does still exist. If I go to View over here and I change my view mode to hairline, it still exists. The line is still there, right? And if I click the line, I can see it still has a color. So where this becomes an issue is when you're doing a design and it starts to get very complicated, your lines start to disappear. So what I like to do is switch my view. I'm going to go back to vector. Right? I don't think I can zoom in. No, it doesn't exist. But then I'm going to highlight it over here, and I have the name of the curve over here, so I can actually rename this curve. I can say red. I can name this curve red vector, so even if it's missing, I know I can find it like this. I would change my stroke to a stroke that I can see, so even just 1. I'll change it to 1, and then before I submit my design, I would go and I would select on my layers, I'll select all my lines. Hold on, I want to get rid of this transform. Can this transform go up here, please? Thank you. And where? I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want that. Don't need history. Okay. Okay. All right, so layer over here, if I go to my layer and I have the curve, did I rename this? I think I renamed it. I renamed it red. Oh, it's over here. Oh, I named the text box instead of the line. But so I can select this over here, and so if I have multiple of them, I can select them using the Shift key, and once I select them, I can change their stroke STR. I can change them all at the end of my design. And I believe you can even do stuff like if let's say I have this line over here and I copy it a few times. So Control C, Control V. So I have a bunch of them. I think you can highlight them all and I can even group them. Group, and now they're grouped and I can call this vector cutting lines. Vector cutting lines, and if I open this, I have all my vector cutting lines in there. So I can double click. I should be able to right click this and select them all. One. And it's changed all the line thicknesses of all the ones inside. Right? So that's vector cutting. Next over here, we have the next line. This one will be, let's go to color. Hey, they're very loud outside. So this one over here is going to be RGB blue. So we're going to bring this slider all the way to 250. Not this inside, the outside. RGB blue. And RGB blue is going to be called I believe they call it vector line or vector etch. Depends on the word they use. But what this is going to do is going to do a very thin line that's not going to go through the material. This is very good if you want to do it. We're going to use it later for the border. And it has the same rules. It has to be thickness equal of 0.001 points. Right? That's the thickness that needs. And I'm not going to shrink for this one. The last one is, we're going to keep it at black, and this is called rastering. And what rastering does is it basically cuts an area. So think of it when you go with your texture on your object and you color everything black with the texture. That's what rastering is going to do. Rastering out of all of these is the only one that we need a fill for. So I have a line here, but maybe a better example for the rastering would be if I have a shape, like I draw a star, and if I have the rastering, to do rastering, the inside color, I want it to be black. And for it to be black, all these dials have to go to 0. And we don't need anything on the outside. So this triangle over here, not triangle, star, this star is going to be rastered, and this is going to be cut on the laser cutter. And I might be able to show, if we did everything correctly, right? Let me just pause this for a second. So if I was to bring this to the laser cutter, we'll see what happens. I can go to File, I can go to Print, I can custom, this is me doing the laser cutter, so I have the simulator of the laser cutter on my computer, and I press OK, and if this worked, one of those lines was the right, I don't think the red line was correct. Oh, wonderful. So this is, it's on the laser cutter over here. One of those lines is correct, one of them is not. But here's my things on the laser cutter. So everywhere the laser cutter has blue, that means it's on the laser cutter to do like a half-powered line, a very, very thin line. Everywhere it is red, it's going to say cut through that material. And everywhere it's black, so the star and this line, it's saying like scratch that out of the, burn that on the top layer of the material. So it's going to have like a wood, if it's a wood, it's going to be wood burning effects. As in like for the shapes? I think so. That's mostly going to be used for the rastering. Yes. Yeah, like if that star, if we had a border around it, if we had the star with a red border around it, what do you think would happen then? What is the red command? Yeah, it's going to scratch like the black of the star, and then it's going to cut the outside. If it's blue, it's going to do like a half border around it. Then it does nothing. If black is so thin, it doesn't actually, it's like if you did an infinitely thin pencil line, it won't be visible. Sorry, just so the way I made it visible is I made it thicker again. So I think the reason why, I think there's, so yeah, view mode, and then you press hairline. But the problem with hairline, I'll actually show you here, is we know this is a red line, and there's a blue line over here that's like hidden, right? Because it's so thin. Here's the problem with hairline. View mode, hairline. What color are these lines now? They're all black. The problem with hairline is it doesn't show the color. There is a way you can do both. If you go to view and you go to mode, you can actually do split view, where you can have one half of it on, see, one half's on color and one half's on black, so you can move between them. And notice here with our star, look what happens to the star, people. Look what happens to the star as I go over here. We just do the outline of the star. If you have an image that you import, it's going to come out just as a square or as the outside shape. It's not going to have the inside color. And even stuff like our letters, you see what's happening there? It's just doing the outside, which means actually with this etch, if we look at this, there's black with no stroke. We could actually change this over here by making the outside blue, and the inside can actually be colorless. And then these would also have that effect. And I'll bring this to the cutter. But before I do that, I just want to fix what my problem here was. I think it's because I have too many of these. So I'm just going to delete some of these. Okay, and this one, we'll delete this one. Right, now this should be, this line, it has a thickness of 1 point. I'm going to show you what happens. If I leave it as 1, I'll show you what happens if we leave it 1, because these are the mistakes that I'm going to find out when you hand in your name tag, either this lesson, probably not this lesson, but next lesson, as you're handing in, I'm going to show class examples up the top, and we're going to, as a class, identify where they can be improved. So if you have this red line is too thick, it's 1 point. I'll copy and paste it actually, and the one above it will have that one correct. The one above it will be 0.001, and hold on, let me print it and then I'll answer. So if I go to here in File and I go to Print, you'll see what this looks like. This should look like, so over here, this over here is black, so it's clearly not blue. So there's something we've got to fix with that. But also over here, so the top one is a red. So what's that going to tell the laser cutter? Cut. This one over here, black. What's that going to tell the laser cutter? It's going to tell it something. Black is raster, yes. So these are the same line, same color, but the top one was the right thickness, the bottom one was the incorrect thickness. So these are going to be the mistakes. And this, we did the same mistake here with this blue, because even I forgot this. Over here, the stroke thickness was too thin, 0.001. We actually should have made that super thin. And then we go to print this, print. And now when this goes to the laser cutter, now this will do the correct, and this will do a very nice thin line for this writing. This is very nice if you have some fancy writing. Some of your name tags, your design, you might want this. If you want to just get the outline like bubble writing, style writing in your name tags, you can use this. All right, did you still have a question?
Do you have like an image of what all like look like?
As in printed in real life? No, but I could try to do one over the holidays. So. Yeah, I'll laser cut a template and I'll show you in class because I'll let you modify it next week.
Accidentally put the wrong pointers.
I can change depending on how difficult it is. I can either change it myself. If it's a lot, I'll send it back and ask you to, because I'll load it up on the simulator, and the simulator is very easy for us to see because like this line is black. So we know you go and you change it in the original file. Now, one last thing. I will pause this though before I do it. But hold on. Okay, so I want to show what happens as some of you putting in your images. Do you remember how we image traced our images, right? So over here I have an image. And we did the Zapdos tutorial. I want to place Zapdos here. Now Zapdos, we've added Zapdos. This half of the screen is on wireframe. So it only does the border of Zapdos. If you want to actually see the full Zapdos, we have to go to like pixel form or vector form. Now, okay, we have Zapdos here. Cool. We know Zapdos is bitmapped. But let's say sometimes you can use a bitmap. Sometimes. Here's what happens if I bring Zapdos into the thing. Now Zapdos is a bunch of colors. Right? But it's also not a vector. Let's see what happens. I'll show you what happens when we print Zapdos. We print Zapdos. Okay. So that's clearly Zapdos, right? But notice here, the laser cutter has seen that Zapdos was a bunch of different yellows, right? But there's some parts that are black. Like if we look at the back of this wing, this was a very, very dark color. Okay, so what the laser cutter does, the laser cutter the only color the laser cutter knows is destruction, right? It destroys the material. It's very sad, actually. But so what it's doing here is it's getting the Zapdos. First thing the laser cutter does is it first looks for any of the colors that it needs, which is red and blue. And then it does those commands. And then what it does is every other color, it treats it as a gray color. So it gets how close it is to black or white, and it turns it into a grey. And then that grey color, it tells the laser that's how much destruction I want. So if we look over here, this is mostly all black. There's a few white dots. So on average, that's going to be a very, very dark laser engraving burning. But if we look at this wing over here, it's less. It's about 50-50. So it's going to be on, off as the laser cutter is doing its cutting. Its toes over here, which are probably very, very, very close to white, they're mostly white. So it's going to have a less of a rastering. So you can put these images in. The effectiveness really depends on the material. And the problem why I don't like this on the plywood particularly is this very mild color differences aren't going to show up well on the plywood because the plywood is already a natural material, so it has different densities all over it, and the amount that it burns depends on the density of the material. I would rather you make your own rastering, your own versions of Zapdos that we did in class, and you pick higher contrasting colors. So this back wing being clearly black, that's great, and then I would make these wings, I'll make these slightly a lighter shade of yellow. So they're going to have more contrast. And then I'd make sure my border over here, I'd probably make it a bit thicker. So we have that nicer part around Zapdos.
What if it's like a hollow plastic, like?
So it won't laser cut a different color onto the plastic. The plastic will be a color. And how those work, it's every color acts slightly different, but in general, if it's a very dark plastic, it's going to have a white color. So if it's a black plastic and we burn black plastic, it comes out as white. If it's a transparent plastic, the rastering is going to have like the foggy effect. There's also the opportunity to do the engraving if it's a plastic, to do like a bit of a thickness. And so what that allows us to do is then we can go over that part with a texture or paint, and we can paint into the part where it's burnt into the plastic. That's generally what happens with plastic. So in general, plastics make the color brighter where they're burnt, and wood make the color darker where it's burnt. So that's enough. I think for our name tags, I'm going to try to do them all with wood, I think, for now. And then if we have time at the end of the unit, I'll let you reprint them in the color, because I'll see what spare color materials we have. But for now, I think we'll just do them all with wood. So let's do a quick name tag tutorial now. So we're going to go, I'm just going to delete, I think if I press file, a name's going to show up. All right, let's do a name tag. So file new, again, 600 by 450, just as my size. I'm at this screen. The starting to my name tag is a very basic name tag. We're going to use the shapes. The shapes on here are, where are the shapes? The star, because that's right, because I had a star before. If you click it, or if you right click it, you can choose all these different things. I think I'm going to pick a rounded rectangle tool to give my name tag a nice curvature feel. Rounded rectangle tool. I'm going to click the shape of this tool, and I have my basic shape of my rectangle. I'm then going to go to, I have some options over here. I can change my corner. I can change my corner percentage. I think I can also change my corner. I think I can make it an absolute size as well. But let's change the, I think I've lost some stuff. Here we go. Transform is X form. Okay. So let's get the sizing right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the move tool. I'm going to click that object, and under my transform over here, I have my width and my height. So my width will be, I'm just going to pick this size of 80 millimeters wide, and I'm going to pick 30 millimeters high. It's similar to our Pokemon card tutorial. Yes? You are making your own keychain. You're laser cutting its own size because you're cutting it out of the material. If you pick anything that's rough for this size, I'm fine with it. If your client wants a square shape, right, I don't want to do anything larger than 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. Because if it's larger than that, I might approve it, but I have to see if you're wasting material or not. But I think, personally, 8 by 3 is a good size, one. The other thing to consider is, apologies for people on the tutorial, but these are the key rings that you have to fit inside them. So these key rings are 25 millimeter circles. But that's what we want to fit. Yeah. I think so, yeah. Just generally try to keep it under 10 centimeters squared, because any larger than that, it's hard for me to cut it on the material. So I have this shape over here, and I'm going to change my corners. I would like my corners over here to be 5 millimeters. Enter. Zoom in. That's my general shape. Now the next thing I've got to change is my color. The inside, I want my inside to be transparent. I want my outside to be... Now, if I want to cut out this keychain, what color should my outside be?
Red.
Which red specifically? FF0000, yes, also known as RGB red. The reason why I say RGB red, four things. The reason why I say RGB red is if you are using another software like Adobe Illustrator, which is like, it's the more powerful software to do this on, but you don't get a free version as a student. In that, they refer to this as RGB red, is what they refer to as that color. So that's why I'm also using that term. And I do that, I crank that slide all the way to 250, RGB red. The stroke, we know what the stroke needs to be. It has to be 0.001, but let's change it at the end. We'll do that approach so we can visibly see it in the tutorial. Wonderful. Next, I want to introduce a border. There's two ways I can do a border. I can either press the round tool again and I can just draw it, right? I can draw my shape over here. I can go to my transform and I can say I want it to be 80. Is this smart enough to me to do -4? Oh, it is smart enough. Wow. That's what? U4 maths? Wonderful. It's up to a U4 level. 30 -4. Wonderful. I've got these two shapes. Right? I got my color, I got my stroke. Let's just keep it as 1 for now. So I got my color, I got my strokes, I got these two shapes. My border, again, let's say absolute. If the top one was 5 millimeters, let's make this one 3 millimeters. I've got these two shapes. Now, ideally, these shapes will go like this, right? That'll be great. You can also do this automatically on here, I believe, and we highlight both of them. So I have both of these rectangles selected. We can see over here in the bottom right-hand corner, I have both of them selected, but we can also see the blue border is covering both these objects. We can do these options up here called the alignment tools. So I can press alignment and I can say I want them to align in the center and I want them to align in the center, right? That's really good, right? But let's say, right, maybe you're doing a slightly custom shape, right? And I'll, give me a second. Let's say, what is this, like the Sesame Street logo, right? Wonderful. Don't judge me. Let's say that's the shape I want. That's the shape I want for my keychain, whatever, right? It's a lovely shape. I want to do a border for this shape. There's no shape that exists there. I could go with my pen tool and ding, 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 do all the things, but it's not going to be perfect. So let's use a new tool, the contour tool. What the contour tool does is it does an offset to a stroke of a curve or a shape. So it's basically doing like a parallel line, which is perfect for a border. So I'm going to press the contour tool. I'm going to press this shape over here. And then over here with my contour tool, I can pick this shape over here. Let's say I want it to be 3 millimeters and I press enter. And there, look, it's done a border. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do -3 because I want it to be on the inside. Right? It's got this shape over here and Control Z. The one other issue here is it deletes the original curve, which is our only problem with the contouring. With the contouring tool, it deletes the original curve. So what we're going to do first is we're going to copy it, paste a new curve. So now we've got two curves. Right? We'll select one of the curves. We'll do the contouring tool. We'll go -2.5. And then when we press enter, there we go. We've got that nice little inner curve. Yes? That's fine. Graphically, it's only showing that number. So we do here, the outside is red, which is the cut command. So what will this turn out? How will this turn out on my laser cutter right now? Yeah, I'm going to build it like a ring, basically, just which isn't ideal. I want it to be a border. So what color should my inside line be? Yeah, which type of blue? Yeah, RGB blue. So which is I should show you what the blue is in the hex code. So 0 red, 0 green, 255 blue. In the hex code, that is 0. So 4 zeros and 2 Fs. 0 0 0 0 FF. That is the blue. And again, this thickness should be thinner. Now you can get custom borders, shapes of things. This is great if you're, like we did the Zapdos, you did the Zapdos, right? Because you did those lines, you can now contour those lines. You can make a border around your Zapdos, right? So, or if you have a line, then you can follow it. Okay, so we have this. I'm going to just deal with my top one up here. I'm going to change my color to 0000FF. It's my color. Then I am going to start making my name tag. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be inserting an image. I'm going to be inserting an image. So my person I'm making a name tag for she has a pet parrot called Cookie, who's an Indian ringneck, and she likes Harry Potter. So I didn't make this. I used ChatGPT to make me a picture of an Indian ringneck that has a Harry Potter hat on it and Harry Potter glasses, right? So that's my particular image. And if I had the infinite time that you have, I could go and I could do the image tracing, because this, I believe, is we can check, it's a bitmap, right? I'm going to insert this whole image. Depending on how you need to use this for your design, you might have to image trace. Sorry, you might have to do the borders for this particular object. And with that, you can refer to the Zapdos tutorial to put that object in there. So we got that. And then even the image, if I named it, You're a Wizard Cookie over here, PNG, it's automatically in there. Remember, when we switch our view to mode, when we go to hair frame, the image has disappeared. That's fine. It's just we know that it's only going to show the border of the image. So we've got to change our view to vector to actually see that image. The next thing we need is the text. I'm not going to put their name tag, but I'll put the name tag over here of your wizard cookie. All right, and I can do stuff here. I can change the size. I can change the location. Now, I can also change the font. A word on the font, though. I can also change this. We can make it more justified like that. One issue we have with the font is we have this lovely range of fonts over here, right? Now, the issue is when you try to transfer this to another software, if you transfer to another Affinity software, it should be fine. But the laser cutter, if I can't get it working on Affinity, I might have to do it through another software. Not all of these fonts will work, right? Which is why when we submit this assessment task, I'm going to ask you to both submit the Affinity file and a PDF output. So you're going to give me 2 images. So what I can do when I'm laser cutting is I can look at the file and see what style of font you do, and I will get something that looks similar to your font. So if you have a very specific font here that looks in a particular way, so you really like BrushScript MT1, right? We highlight BrushScript MT1 over here. Is that the most magical looking one? That's pretty close. Yeah, that's all right. What other magical looking? Oh, there we go. That's very magical. Windings. That's too magical for me. We highlight and we have this over here. That's ready for the name tag. And then, so if I highlight this, there's some things maybe I don't want this to be, because this is very thin. See how this black text over here is actually very, very thin. This might not look up well in the laser cut. In fact, let's just have a look. Before I do this, we have to remember to select those 2 colors. What thickness should this be? Wonderful class, yes. Second favorite class right now. Almost first. All right, 0.001. It's disappeared. Is that a problem? No, it still exists. It's just it's very small. File, print. Now, I think there could be an error here because I've had some errors before, but we'll see. If there's an error, I think there might be an error due to cookie, but we'll see. I go to the printer. Oh, wonderful. So here it is on the thing. So cookie prints out. You know, it's not perfect, cookie, because it is black, which is very good for the laser cutter. It's going to give the general image of cookie. There are some features I can do later to make it better, but for now we'll go with this. You're a wizard cookie. That's great over here, but see how it's very, very thin on some of these parts? It might not be the effect that we want. So maybe we want to change it to a blue outline. So we'll do that. So I'll go back to Affinity. I'll go over here. I might want to change this from color. I might want to do black and blue. I might want the outside to be 000FF, and I'll press enter. So now the inside is black and the outside is blue. So what that's going to do when I print that, print, okay. Give it a second to load up. Oh, what did I forget? Why didn't it show up? What thickness was that line? Yeah, the line wasn't. So I've got to go to stroke over here, and I have to change this to 0.1. File, print, and then it won't. If it's actually 0, then it won't. It doesn't exist as a line. I know it's weird. It's got to be so thin. If it's that thin, the computer is detecting it as an infinitely thin line that still exists. But if it's 0, it's a line that does not exist. Yeah, that's one of the annoying things. And unfortunately, that's one of the annoying things when you don't have the printer installed on your computer. But over here, this would work. We have this lovely name tag. We're going to have this blue thing here. And in theory, I can even go here and tell the laser cutter, print this out of material. I can go to natural. I can go to, not natural. I can go to wood. A medium density fiberboard. Sorry, medium density, general medium. The wood thickness is going to be 3 millimeters. So I do 3.1. And I can tell it. Did I not save? Save. 3.1. Enter. I think I've had this issue before. I've got to click somewhere else, I think. Okay, there you go. Now apply. It didn't want to do it with the text box open. Okay, so I can actually tell my laser cutter in my simulator how long will this take. Cutting, beep, 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 beep. Ta-da! 3 minutes and 23 seconds to make this name tag. So as we do a whole class of 20, it's going to take over 3 times 20 is what? An hour, yeah. So realistically, when I do this with the class, I do it in multiple batches. All right, so if there's any errors. Now, this is going to cut out the name tag. What's missing from this name tag? How are we going to attach these rings? A hole. How do I make a hole? Yes, so red circle over here. We know the hole over here. For this one, I'm going to go to my mode so I don't have to adjust. I'm going to go back to hairline. And so we want our hole to be somewhere here. We can go over here, shape. We can go to circle. We can click somewhere. If we bring our line near the middle, it's actually in the center. That's pretty nice. I can click here. I think I have to click and drag. I'll click and drag. It automatically comes up. A hole in the software is called an ellipse, but I can even call it a hole. I can name it hole. I can go to my size. I can say I want it to be 5, tab 5 millimeters. So we've got its size. The next thing we need to do is we have to align this near the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover all these 3 things. And I'm going to align. I want to align them all this way. Now, I don't want to press this top one. Well, I'll press it. I'll show you what happens. If I press this top one, what happened here? There's going to be a hole in the middle of Cookie. We don't want that. Cookie's a nice bird. So can we undo that? Yes, we can. So we want to align it. I like to you play with your own align tool, but that's in the center. I can then choose to drag it left or right. But this should now If I hover over this, I can see my color is red, which is the thing we want. Our stroke thickness is 0.001. Enter. This should now go to File. If we go to Print, Print. Oh, blue. I must have pressed the wrong one. We don't want it to be blue. Oh. 00, so FF0000. I don't think the lowercase doesn't matter for that. Okay, print. And there you go. That is going to be the name tag. It will cut out the outer border. So how the laser cutter works is the process is it cuts the black rastering first, does all the scratches, and then it'll do all the blue lines. And then the last thing it will do will be all the red lines. So, because as the red lines are cut, the pieces might move around in the machine more, so it does those at the very end. And then this will cut out, and then the name tag will be ready to give to this person. Okay, so are there any questions before I pause and end and upload the tutorial? Are there any questions related to the tutorial you might have? Okay, so you are going to use this lesson and the next lesson. You're going to use the information you have about the person that they gave you and your sketches, the feedback they gave you in the sketches. You don't have to pick one of the sketches. You can combine them together or think now how they're going to go on the laser cutter. Now that I've told you that for this class, I'm going to make them all out of plywood. Think about which ones are going to look good on plywood. You can't add the color to the plywood by laser cutting, but we may have time at the end of the unit to add some color by paint, or you can go with textures on top of the plywood. But at the end of the unit, we may, if there's spare material, we might do some color cutting. Okay, I think that's it. I can go end the tutorial. Oh, how you will submit this to me when I give you when I open up on Google Classroom. Here's how we go to submit this file. There's two ways you're going to be submitting this file to me. So we'll go to, let's just keep it in the other view for now. So this is ready to be sent, and it's like it's a hidden file. You're going to go to this option over here to export PDF. Now, in your version, it looks like this. Your one looks like this, I believe. You have this up here, you have export PNG in your top. So to export PDF, we're going to go press that little arrow down there. We have to press plus. And what this plus does is this gives us all the options that we can use. We're going to tick the PDF one. And what that does, see how it opens up, there's the option now for us to pick this PDF. Then we're going to click, yep, I want PDF. I want the option over here. I think the best one is PDF for export and advanced. If there's an option here. Embed fonts. Let's do text as curves. If we go to text as curves, what that should do is it should keep the font shape you have in there because it's going to turn the text into a shape. And then I'll press export. And it's going to ask us over here to give a name. So generally, when I want something cut on the laser cutter, you always need to have your name. Remember with the Pokemon card, you need to have your name in the file. Otherwise, I'm not going to cut anything because everything, if there's a problem, I need to know which student to email to contact for. So here's a general practice, unless I tell you differently. General practice you do to name a file. We can say Mr. Patain is the name of the file. Then we can say what the thing is. Keychain 2026, right? That's the name of this file, or what is. And then if it's going to the laser cutter, you should give me some advice so I know what material we're cutting it out of. In our class, for this project and the next project, they're mostly all out of the same material, but in future tasks, you might have different colors. So this one, we're just going to call it plywood. And then the file should be a PDF file, should be saved there, should be saved. And it's going to be saved as that. That's one, and then you're also going to be saving it as an Affinity file, so I have access to both of the files if I need to manually change something in your thing. So for file, we're going to press Save As, And here we'll do the same thing. We'll name it Mr. Pertain. Same file, but we don't want it with the .pdf. So Mr. Pertain, keychain, plywood, and affinity file. And I notice affinity file is .af. So I press save. And then when I ask you to submit on Google Classroom, your name, there should be 2 of these files there for me to look at. There's the PDF one, and if it all works, I can just print the PDF. It's very easy. But if there's any issues that I have to fix, I can go into the Affinity, because I can't change a PDF. It's locked, but I can fix the Affinity file. Some things that happen that cause errors is, see how we have Cookie over here? If I drag Cookie over here, back up. So if I drag Cookie over there, sometimes this causes a problem with the printer. Sometimes, depending on the file that Cookie is made out of, if Cookie is in front of those lines, it will not, the red and blue lines won't work. So that's why sometimes I have to edit it manually. We won't get that. I don't know what causes all the time. I haven't identified it, but sometimes students have given me files that the image on top ruins the files that are underneath it. So I sometimes can fix it, sometimes I can't.
What does the width for the text have to be?
The width, as in, are you talking about like the border on the outside of it? Same as if you're cutting it, 0.001. If you're not doing a border, if you're not doing a blue or red outside the text, you can just have, it can be black, it doesn't matter. Yes. No. Oh, but there's something, you did raise something interesting. You might want to do, let me just copy this text over here, but maybe you want to do it like bubble writing is the best example I can think of, right? Maybe you want this to be bubble writing. So this is You're a Wizard Cookie, right? We highlight this, the color. We might want the outside of this to be black, which as we already know is all the zeros, right? The outside of black, and the inside to be hollow. And then stroke. Right. You might want it to look like this, right? So that's thicker. You can do that as well. You can, with the text, so look at that color over here. See the outside, oh, not red. For this text, the outside of the text, the stroke is black, the inside is see-through, transparent. And with the stroke, I gave that stroke of let's just make that stroke of 1.5. And let's see what this looks like when we bring it to the laser cutter. File, print. So maybe you want it to look like this, right? That's another option you have available to you. That's when you're using just the stroke. And so when you say the stroke of the text, if you have it as red, it's going to cut out the outside. If you have it as blue, it's going to make a nice border around the text. If you make it as black, that's fine. Just if you give it a thickness, it's going to be thicker than the actual text, which is okay if you want it to be like a bubble writing style of thing where the inside is transparent. Yeah, if it doesn't, if it's not that thickness, it's going to think of it as a black line. So if the text is if the red or blue lines are too thick, like in our example we had over here, this one, the Zapdos, this line over here was the red line that was too thick. And notice how it's not pure black. It's got the dots. So just like the Zapdos, it turned to the red line. It was asking how grey is this red line? Because at first it looks for a vector and it says, oh, this red line is not a vector. I think this person wants this red line to be an image. That's what it's trying to determine with that. All right, at this point, I'll end the tutorial. You can then continue working on your name tags and I'll upload it. Hopefully it gets uploaded in time for you to look at it today, but otherwise homework and tomorrow or next lesson, I'll get you to finish your name tags. I won't give you the location to upload the name tags till tomorrow's lesson. So don't upload it yet. You'll be uploading it during tomorrow's lesson.